failure is resistance. Failure is a test. Failure is an opportunity for you to learn from, get up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward. And if you're not willing to do that, your future will not be as bright as you want it to be.
Welcome to the Bedros Keuilian Show.
17 rules for men who want to live an awesome life. Hey fellas, welcome to the Bedros Keuilian Show. I'm Bedros Keuilian, and today I've got a great episode teed up for you. These are 17 rules for men who want to live an awesome life. And for the 7 or 8% of you ladies who watch and listen to my show, thank you. And this is applicable to you as well. At least most of it is applicable to you, because as it turns out, we're all human and we are going through the human journey. And if I knew these 17 rules 20 years ago, I'm 50 now. So if I knew it 20, 25 years ago, it would have given me a massive advantage in life. I would have been happier. I would have been more successful. I would have had a greater sense of purpose and significance in my life. Relationships would have been better. So what I'm about to share with you here is through my 50 years of life experience. And then of course, it's through the experience and the lens that I have where I get to see some of the biggest top performers in the world, right? I'm pretty well connected and I have some pretty badass coaching clients and who are all high speed, successful, happy, have a really great fulfilled life. And I realize these 17 rules are literally synonymous across many different walks of life. So with that said, let's get started. Rule number 1, money is not the goal. Freedom is the goal. I say that again. Money is not the goal. Freedom is the goal. And what I mean by that is freedom to be able to do what you want, when you want to do it, with who you want to do it, with for as long as you want to do it. That is the goal. Freedom to have experiences, freedom to have security, freedom to have choices, right? Freedom to not be bossed around, freedom to be able to manage your own time and energy, freedom to not be told what to do. And so if we know that freedom is the goal and it's not money, but we know what buys us freedom, money, right? Obviously, saving money is a great idea too. Investing money is a great idea. The whole idea here is to multiply your money. And if we know that freedom is the goal and money is the tool that gets us there, then what we need to do is get better at making money. And we've got a ton of episodes on the BK Show on all about how to make more money. So with that said, let's move on to number 2. Rule number 2 is one great friend is worth 10 good ones. And I can tell you that from firsthand experience. One great friend who's got your back, who will listen to you, who will call you out, and then who will set the standards high enough for you instead of placating to the lower standards that you want to set for yourself. Like that is a great friend, right? A great friend who will call you out when you need to be called out, who will listen to you in times that you need to be heard and you're going through dark, hopeless times, and then who will also set those standards high enough for you because they know what your potential in life is. And you should be that kind of friend too. That one great friend is worth 10, 20, 30 good friends. I promise you that. Rule number 3, default to kindness and generosity. Default to kindness and generosity, but don't be a fool. And that's what I wrote down here because as always, I will show up with respect, kindness, and generosity towards everybody, but I will not be foolish enough to be able to look past something if they are disrespectful or if they seem cunning or they seem spiteful or they are the type of person that spreads rumors or gossips, right? But always show up with kindness and generosity. And when you do, you will win more friends. You've probably heard the term, you will win more bees with honey than with vinegar. That is what kindness and generosity is. You will always win more friends, more allies, more opportunities will open up to you when you show up with kindness and generosity. Number 4, hustle in silence and understand that success is loud. Most of you out there are literally talking about what you're going to do in life, talking about the wins that you're going to accomplish, talking about what your next goal is, but it's pretty rare for you to go out and do it. And what you're really doing is you're creating potential competition if you're taking your bright idea and you're putting it out there anyway. Rather than talking about it on social media and getting those dopamine hits that are so flighty and so quick to go away, what if you actually hustled and in silence, in private, and let your success do the speaking. I think that is one of the things that I see in the biggest winners, the people that live the most awesome lives. No one saw them coming because they were grinding and hustling in silence and in private. And then when they popped off, success did all the speaking for them. Rule number 5, if a book sucks, stop reading it. I can't stress this enough. If a book sucks by chapter number 1 or 2, stop reading it. And then if you come across a great book, read it twice and then read it once a year after that. And the reason I share that with you is most people don't realize that there's something called active reading. Active reading is being able to not only take notes in the margins of the book, right? I like to take notes in the margins of the book when I'm reading a book, or if I'm listening to an audiobook, I will take notes on my iPhone, but I'll also dog ear the pages, and then I'll go back and read the book over and over again every year, because every year I'm in a new place of life. My business is bigger, I have more employees, maybe the economy's changed, maybe my perception and belief system has evolved, maybe I have new habits and new way of life, and that book will all of a sudden teach me something new that I wasn't ready to learn a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And so some of my most favorite books I've read 18, 19, 20 times. And the reason I've done that is because I want to develop mastery. The only time you can apply a book to your life is when you have a high level of mastery where you can teach the concepts of the book. And so if you just read it once, you'll never understand the concepts well enough to teach. And if you can't teach, you cannot apply. Rule number 6, jealousy and gossiping are traits of the weak and insecure. I don't care what you justify it as. Hey, it's just water cooler talk. It's just, whatever, boys talk, girls talk. At the end of the day, jealousy and gossiping are literally traits of the weak and insecure, because only weak and insecure people like to tear others down to be able to show themselves in a better light. What you ought to consider doing is walk away from people who gossip, walk away from people who are jealous, control your jealousy by always winning in life and putting in work to stack the W's. And if you're stacking W's every day, you're too busy to go and be jealous or to gossip about somebody else. Number 7, never trust a man who is fat or not punctual. Simple as that. And that one is, a lot of people are going to argue with me about this, but I'm going to tell you right now, a man who is not punctual is the type of man who cannot be trusted, because if they can't value your time, if they can't respect your time, if they can't respect the time that we're going to meet up, whether for coffee, for a meeting, for dinner, for whatever, then the relationship is only going to erode further. He's only going to become more disrespectful of your time, of your energy down the line, right? And a man who's fat, I say you can't trust a man who's fat, because if he can't control his desires to eat, if he can't have enough discipline and self-motivation to take himself to the gym and to control his consumption of food, then how can you trust this man with any other work? Now, you might be like, well, listen, Warren Buffett's a little chunky, Elon Musk is a little chunky. Great. I would tell you that each of these people could be even more successful, could be even richer if they were fit and controlled their weight. And I got to tell you, you shouldn't go around trying to compare yourself to anomalies like Warren Buffett and Elon Musk. What you ought to do is understand that if you are fat and if you are not punctual, you are seen by everybody else as someone who is inferior. I'm just telling you how the world sees you. They see you as inferior. They see you as someone who's almost disabled and someone who doesn't have enough personal discipline and self-love to be able to actually care about their punctuality or their ability to manage their obesity or fitness level. Rule number 8, the fastest way to learn is by doing. Most of you out there are out there gathering information. I want you to stop the information gathering, because all information gathering is tactical avoidance. Tactical avoidance means you're acting like you're tactically doing something. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this research, I'm reading this book, I bought this course. Well, that's all great. Many of you have probably more knowledge in certain aspects of marketing or sales or persuasion or leadership than I do. The difference is you are constantly gathering but you are not doing. You think that gathering information is the best way to learn. I'm telling you right now, the best way to learn is by doing, because in the process of doing, you learn through real life experience. Life will course correct you, and those lessons you will never forget. Moving on to number 9, never pass the opportunity to give a sincere compliment to someone. Think about this. So many people are walking through life every single day, and you might be one of them right now, and you might be in a place where you're just kind of depressed, you're in a funk, you're overwhelmed, things haven't been working out well for you, you're anxious, whatever the thing is, you're just funky, right? Others are feeling the same way. You may not even realize this, but others are feeling the same way. And if others are feeling the same way, how great would it be that you would be kind enough to just pass along a sincere compliment? The other day, I was in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. I was on stage speaking at Ali Gilbert's event, Silverback Summit. And there was a dude sitting 2 rows back, jack dude, big shoulders, big traps. And as I was doing my keynote presentation, I just stopped, looked at him, and I was like, bro, you've got some shoulders and traps on you, man. You're a fucking jack. That is an inspiration to me. And he just sat up and he lit up, and he was in great shape. He's a specimen. Next thing you know, at the cocktail party, a couple hours later, he walks up to me and he's like, man, I really appreciate this. And he walked up to me with his wife and he's like, man, I really appreciate what you said. That meant a lot. And she turns to me, she's like, you know what? Coming from you, that really meant a lot for him. He's so critical about himself and he's so hard on himself, and that really meant a lot that you said that. How easy was it for me to pass along a sincere compliment, and how valuable was it to this guy who could have heard it from me or someone else? I mean, you're probably seeing someone with a nice car, nice shoes, nice hat, nice body, whatever the thing is. Hey, nice lift. That was a great squat you did. That was a great bench press. Man, that was a great pull. Holy crap, 4 plates on the deadlift and you made it look like it was a plate. Like, that is awesome. Like, give that compliment. Nothing wrong with that. And when you do, you might make a friend, you might make someone's day, or you might help someone stop from making a permanent decision that could potentially end things for them, if you know what I mean. So never pass up the opportunity to give a sincere compliment. Rule number 10, fitness is the gateway drug. I've said this before in previous episodes. I've got a whole episode about fitness being the gateway drug, but fitness is the gateway drug to success. Fitness is a gateway drug to confidence, to mental toughness, to emotional discipline, to being even happier in life, to better relationships, because someone who's fit, who is not critical of their body, someone who is confident about how they look and how they carry themselves, they're just going to be a happier, more successful person, because you don't feel like an imposter. You don't feel like a phony. You don't feel like, man, you're being judged by others. Like, I could walk into a room at 50 years old and I could tell people are like, and by the way, I'm talking about people who don't know who I am. Because I keep myself in shape, I can walk into a room and I could sense how people are drawn to me, strangers who don't know who I am. And I share that with you because I've also previously been overweight. In my early 30s, as I started to launch Fit Body Boot Camp, the stress of it all was so overwhelming. I put on 30 pounds of fat. And I remember walking into rooms, again, people who didn't know me, and I wasn't taken as seriously. I wasn't seen as a formidable force to be reckoned with. And quite honestly, I know that when I'm fit, I'm more mentally tough. I'm more emotionally tough. I could fight off depression and anxiety, overwhelm, stress more. I could fight off a cold or a flu. Like, fitness truly is the gateway drug to all categories of happiness. Guys, quick interruption to the show. Let me tell you all about the Trillian Wellness Shot. If you're like me and you care about your health, hydration, and building a strong immune system so you can stay active and you can get after it in life, then you want to try the Trillian Wellness Shot. I used to take 11 different supplements in the morning, things like vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin B12, echinacea, ginger, and a whole bunch more. Now it's all included in the Trillian Wellness Shot. I want to send you a 30-day supply for 50% off. Just go to Trillian.com, use the code word Bedros, my name, to get 50% off. You'll also get free shipping. You get a 30-day unconditional money-back guarantee, and $1 of every order goes to Shriners Children's Hospital. And when you use the code word Bedros and do the subscribe and save, which is a Trillian Tribe program, every month you'll get a fresh supply of Trillian Wellness Shots for an additional 20% off and free shipping, and $1 of every monthly order will go to Shriners Children's Hospital. So go to Trillian.com, use code word Bedros, and take advantage of this amazing offer. Now back to the show. Number 11, under pressure, you will always default to your habitual mode. And that means habits are reflexive, right? And if habits are reflexive, then you have to understand it's time for you to develop better habits. So if you have habits where you're, every time you're stressed, you're drinking, or each time you can't sleep, you start smoking some weed, or when you're overwhelmed, or when you're, whatever, you start going on porn sites or OnlyFans sites, or whatever the thing is, life's got you under the pressure, the thumb of that pressure, and all of a sudden you start going to your bad habits of overeating, of overconsumption of alcohol, weed, pornography, television, video games, whatever the thing is. Because under pressure, you will always default to your habitual mode, and your habitual mode is reflexive. And so when you're under pressure, when you're in that fight or flight mode, you're going to reactively go back to your habits that you have solidified. If you've got shitty habits that further take you down the path of degeneration and self-sabotage and devastation, well, that's not going to be a great life, is it? Maybe what you ought to consider is building great habits so that when you're stressed, like I went from emotional eating when I was stressed to now when I'm stressed, I'll work out an additional 2, 3, maybe 4 times a day. And you're like, yeah, Bedros, what about the overtraining though? You're breaking down your body. I don't care. I would much rather overtrain. And when I say overtrain, that might be sled pulls at night. It might be going on a 3 or 4 mile hike. It might be getting into the gym and just doing a completely different body part that I trained earlier than what I trained earlier in the morning. The point of this is I'd much rather overtrain my body and release the dopamine, the endorphins, and stack W's that way, then stand at the kitchen and do what I used to do, which is crack open multiple bagels, dip them in Philadelphia cream cheese, and shove them down my pie hole because I was stress eating, only then to wake up fatter, bloated, and feeling horrible about myself because I was like, who the hell does this, right? And the next day, you just absolutely hate yourself. So it doesn't matter if it's alcohol, drugs, food, TV, pornography, video games. At the next day, whatever your habitual pattern is when you're stressed out and under pressure, you're going to go to that. And then you're going to feel shittier the next day. So why not develop better habits? For me, when I'm stressed and overwhelmed, my habit is outdoors. My habit is more workouts. My habit is more water instead of food. Because if I can fill my stomach up with water instead of food, then I feel a period of satiation. And that means that I'm not going to lean on the calories that are going to later, make me feel like I'm a piece of shit. Rule number 12, on the other side of fear and failure is your future. And I'm here to tell you right now, I don't know what your future is in terms of your head, how you visualize your future. If you visualize it financially free, beautiful home, pool, experiences, long vacations, putting your kids through an awesome life experience, being able to donate to your favorite church and charity and cause, guess what? Those are my visions of the future. And that means I had to fail and overcome the fears that I had multiple times to be able to develop the future that I have today, right? And if you're not willing to overcome your fears and failures, then your future will be very different. So no matter what, on the other side of fear and failure is your future. It just could be a future that's dismal, that's sad and unfortunate, where you're broke and overweight and don't have the best life experiences and are just kind of short-changing your family. Or it could be a future that is bright and financially successful and people are grateful and you have a higher sense of purpose and meaning. But you have to fear or overcome that fear and the fear of failure. I don't know of any successful person that has knocked it out of the park out the gate. We all have these fears of failing. We all have these fears of doubts. We all have these fears of what if it doesn't work out? We get laughed at, we get ridiculed. What if I lose it all? Those fears are legitimate, but you have to push through because I do believe that God or the higher power, the universe, will only reward you in a positive way for your future if you are willing to push through your fears and failures. I say fears because many people don't even start to take the action towards their desired outcome, to their desired future, because they fear what might happen during the journey. And then the other part is the failure. Someone who fails once and goes, well, I guess that was a sign from God that I'm not supposed to be rich and famous and successful and happy. No, No, failure is resistance. Failure is a test. Failure is an opportunity for you to learn from, get up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward. And if you're not willing to do that, your future will not be as bright as you want it to be. Rule number 13, to be a good parent, you're probably not going to feel like a good parent. That's just the reality. As someone who's a parent of a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old, 19-year-old son and 17-year-old daughter, I can tell you that there's plenty of times that I felt like, man, I'm not being a good parent right now. You know, I took their device away, or I made them eat the one thing that mom made them, and I didn't let her make a second, third, or fourth thing to satisfy them, that I made them go in an ice bath, that I made them go, hiking up that hill with me, and they didn't want to. They would have much rather stayed home and been comfortable and chosen the easy path, but I made them do hard things. Well, today they're 19 and 17, and let me tell you how grateful and thankful they are for the hard paths that I've exposed them to. And I share this with you because oftentimes during your journey as a parent, if you're doing things right, you're not going to feel like a good parent. We love how our kids reward us with love and hug and snuggles and all these things, right? If you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about. And oftentimes when they give us that stuff is because we've done something that makes them happy. Well, if you keep trying to do things to make them happy, ultimately you will handicap your kids. And they will end up being the type of kids who are a massive disaster. And there will be a liability to humanity. And I share this with you because to be a good parent, you have to feel, or there are times that you will feel like you're a bad parent. It won't feel good all the time when you're a good parent. And I want to stress that to you because if you're like, oh my God, that almost gave me the permission to do the right thing to raise my kids well as functioning parts of humanity, then you're going to have to do those things and make those hard decisions where they're going to be a little dissatisfied with you now, only to have a better child and future adult down the line. Number 14, masculinity is not toxic. Fellas, I'm telling you right now, masculinity is not toxic. In fact, the absence of masculinity is toxic because weak men are abusive, weak men are spiteful, and weak men are conniving. When I say weak, I don't mean physically like weak men, because the weakness I'm referring to are mentally and emotionally weak men. Men who have no vision for their own lives, men who are constantly seeking the approval and validation of others, men who are treating their wives as though those wives are their moms, men who have no real non-negotiables, and so they will say yes to anything. If their friend's like, dude, we're going to a strip club, okay, yes, I'll go. Dude, we're going to the bar, okay, yes, I'll go. And then for what? You end up ruining your relationship with your honey because you had committed to not going to the strip club. You had committed to not going to the bar. You had committed to honoring that relationship, yet you did the opposite, right? And so I share this with you because a masculine man is someone that has his core values. He has his negotiables. He's not afraid or ashamed to say, nope, I ain't going. And y'all probably shouldn't go either because you're married or you have a relationship, you have a girlfriend. Like, have you thought about that? Being the voice of reason. A masculine man is also someone who is courageous, who is mentally, physically, emotionally strong. He is someone who's honorable. He's got integrity. And he's someone who is both a savage and a servant. Like, he knows how to love, he knows how to show compassion, but he also knows how to kick some ass. Whereas weak and soft men do not have those traits, and therefore they are the most toxic because they will continue to be abusive and spiteful and conniving and backstabbing, which are all just horrible traits that I as a man cannot respect. All right, rule number 15, you've got to develop awareness of your ego because your ego is not your amigo. What I mean by this is you cannot go and kill your ego, right? You do need your ego. Believe it or not, you do need your ego. However, I should tell you this, that your ego can create a lot of blind spots. Your ego can put you in a position where all of a sudden you're like, I know better than them. they don't make as much money than me, therefore they don't know what I know, that no one can do this other than me. See, that is the stuff that the ego does, and soon you begin to discount people who might have a lot more intelligence and a lot more to offer just because they don't make as much money as you. They might have tribal knowledge because you said, hey, this person, you're in charge of traffic buying, you're in charge of copywriting. Like, I believe my copywriter in this building probably writes better copy than I do. My traffic buyer certainly buys better traffic than I do. I wouldn't even know where to go on Meta and Google to buy traffic, right? You know, I'm sitting here in front of a microphone and cameras, but Ed behind the camera there, he does much better at filming and recording and editing than I ever could. And so I share this with you because if I was like, well, I make the most money in this room and in this building, and therefore you don't know as much, I know better than you, what makes you more qualified? And so oftentimes when I find myself in a meeting, I just check my ego because I'm aware of it. And I start listening and taking notes. And I realize that by listening and taking notes, I'm learning from subject matter experts that I'm paying. Whereas if I decided that, hey, I know better and I'm going to give each of you the answers to the solution, or the solution to the problems, well, the solution to the problems that I have are just what lives in my head. I mean, they've got a different vantage point of the problem. They're looking at the problem from a different angle. They might have a very different solution that is far more applicable than the one that I have. So if you can become more aware of your ego, you can use your ego for good, because like I said, we don't want to kill your ego because, hey, guess what? When I'm going through hard times, like I'll use the pandemic for an example. The pandemic was very, very difficult on Fit Body Bootcamp, our franchise. Why? Because it's a gym franchise. And during the pandemic of 2020, all gyms across the United States were forced to shut down for a period of time. So you can imagine how hard that was on our business model, right? However, I was like, you know what? I'm not just going to let private equity come in here and lowball me and offer me money because they know this is when things are tough for us. I'm going to sell a few of my rental properties and I'm going to put that money into my company. And my ego was like, if I sell a few of these rental properties right now, put that money into my company and work my nuts off with my team, I bet I could survive this pandemic without taking in outside capital, outside money, like all those other brands like F45 did and Orange Theory did and 24 Hour Fitness did and Equinox did. All these other companies sold out large parts of equity during the pandemic for pennies on the dollar. And I was like, my ego was like, nope, you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. And therefore it forced me to work harder, to work smarter, to become more aggressive. Now your ego might be like, hey, I want to make a lot of money. I want to provide freedom for my family. I want to provide money for the charities in the church that I believe in. But, I also want to get a nice, expensive Lamborghini or Ferrari. Well, good for you, man, right? Good for you. That's your ego also helping you create a barrier that when I make X amount of dollars, I want to reward myself with whatever. Do you need the Lamborghini or Ferrari? Probably not. Is it okay to get it? Absolutely. I've told many of my coaching clients to go out and get that Ferrari or Lamborghini or that Rolex watch because they earned it. We hit a KPI, a key performance indicator. And when you hit that goal, go reward yourself, right? It's not just about how much money you can stash in cryptocurrency and rental properties and in the bank. Sometimes your ego has to get rewarded. But if you let your ego go out of control, that is when your ego becomes destructive. Number 16, leadership is the lid. This is a quote by John Maxwell. Great book, by the way, highly recommend it. 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. Leadership is the lid. And what he means by that is that if you're a 6 or 7 leader, you can't hire 8 or 9 level employees. I'll take that quote to a new level. Leadership is the lid. And I'll say, if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others. So if you can't lead yourself into discipline, morning routine, structure, fitness, positive mental attitude, how are you going to lead others, right? So leadership is the lid. Like your success, your happiness in your relationship, in your life, all of that is determined by your level of self-leadership. Look at self-leadership as another way for saying self-mastery, self-development. So the higher your self-mastery, your self-leadership, your self-development, the higher your income, the higher your success, the higher your happiness, the higher vibrational frequency you put out. And so understand that leadership is the lid, and that is a wonderful quote by Mr. John Maxwell. And finally, rule number 17, do what needs to be done without complaining. I can tell you as men especially, complaining is not sexy, fellas. It is not cool. I cannot respect a man who complains, I don't want to wake up and do this thing because it's cold. Like, shut the front door, bro, right? Like, shut up. It is our job as men to go out and face the inclement weather, the bear, the dragon, the opposition. Like, it is a gift to us. Men are all about iron, needing iron to stay sharp. We must constantly seek out adventure and battle. And that battle could be hard times economically. That battle could be you're injured, and so you have to work around your injuries in the gym. That battle could be financial hardship. You're going through a financial hard times. Are you going to hustle harder and work harder to rebuild that war chest, or are you going to complain about it? But do what needs to be done without complaining. As men, when you complain, you begin to turn off everybody around you. Your spouse, your girl, your wife begins to lose respect for you. And then other men don't see you as a formidable man to have in their tribe. And so it's the fastest way to isolate yourself, both physically and emotionally, is to complain to the people around you. Guys, if you got any value from this episode, I would love for those of you that are watching this on YouTube to subscribe to the channel. There's about 74% of you watching right now who are not subscribed. I would love for you to subscribe and like this episode and leave a comment so that the algorithms will expose this specific podcast show to more viewers and listeners. And above all, remember this, that average is the enemy, that success is your responsibility, and change can take place in an instant when you decide to flip the switch. I'll see you next time.